What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the REI Cashflow Tribe podcast. My name is Kramer, and in this episode, I interview Christian Bauman. We had such an incredible conversation. He's someone that I met about a month ago in person, but we've kind of been social media friends for a while now. And after meeting him in person at a real estate event, we talked about it a little bit on the episode, but I just gained so much respect for what he's done in the space and what he's continuing to do and what he's grown into in this midterm rental real estate space. So this is really a great episode. He shares a lot about his journey, not just about all the successes, but all about the failures too. And I think that gives such a great perspective because he's not an overnight success story. He'll tell you that. He'll share his story, but a lot to take from this interview. And I can't wait for you guys to dive in. Welcome, Christian. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. Thanks, man. Thank you, Bailey. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I'm excited to chat with you. And just to give the listeners some context here, I know we met in person a month ago, a little more than a month ago, at the MTR Summit in San Diego. What an awesome time. We were on the same flight back, which was kind of cool. One of your flights back. So I want to get into all that you do. I know you do a lot when it comes to the midterm rental space. Just to take a step back though, so you have 30 something arbitrage properties right now?
40 now, yeah.
40 now. Okay, sweet. So I want to get into all that, but how did you even start with the whole real estate side of things? Where were you before you had 40 units?
Oh, yeah, that's great. So I first started in the short-term rental space. I started basically with just doing Airbnb. And I started when I was 21 years old. I had basically just dropped out of college. At the time I was going to school for business administration. And I remember just at the end of the semester, I was 2 years in, and at the end of one of the semesters, I looked at the bill for, at the end of the semester, and it was whatever. It was something, I think it was $12,000 or something for the end of the semester, which honestly isn't even that bad for university. Yeah. But I just remember I looked at the bill. I was like, man, for the experience that I got, I looked back on my experience. I was like, that sucked. For $12,000, I felt like I didn't really learn anything. I had teachers with blue hair, which is fine. It's nothing wrong with it, but I'm like, man, for $12,000, I just feel like I could be learning or doing so much more. Mm-hmm. And I'm just dude, whatever. So I dropped out. And I just knew I wanted to basically start my own business and just figure something else out. I didn't know exactly what it was going to be. I then, a couple weeks later, I came across the rental arbitrage model. Mm-hmm. And, I just came across this idea, and this was in 2018. Just I came across this idea on, I don't know if it was Instagram or YouTube or whatever. That's I can rent an apartment, furnish it, and then sublease it on Airbnb. And I was like, okay, again, I'm 21 years old and had just dropped out of college. I was looking for something to do. I was like, you know what I mean? I was serving, working at a restaurant, right? And I was just looking for something to do. And I was like, okay, that's something I think I can do that, right? I literally had no money. I had no connections. I'd never worked in real estate, didn't know anyone in real estate, no experience. But basically I partnered up with a buddy. And we decided, all right, cool, we're going to try this Airbnb arbitrage thing. Called about 20 landlords before one of them agreed to allow me to arbitrage his property. All right. Again, I didn't have any money, so that's why I partnered with a buddy, and he supplied the money. He brought the money, right? And it was about $5,000 to get that first unit started. And then from there, the rest is history. Once we did the first unit. I remember that first month, my rent on that apartment was $1,000, which included utilities. Included utilities, but not Wi-Fi. And we did in revenue, the first month, $3,000 in revenue on Airbnb. And I was like, okay, wow, that to me proved the concept that this could work, right? And then from the rest is history.
Yeah,
so, totally. And that was almost 5.5 years ago, maybe at this point. So
basically an overnight success. Only took a day, a couple phone calls, and here we are. No, that's awesome. And you mentioned you dropped out of college. I did as well.
Yeah.
How was it for you? Like when you told your family and friends that you're dropping
Oh, dude.
back? Oh,
So at that time, my mom was actually a college professor, so that was a huge fight. That was a big problem. Like with my dad was pretty cool with it. He understood because he's also a small business owner. He does vending machine. He has a vending machine business,
right,
and I kind of told him my plan. I was like, yeah, I want to like start my own business. I want to figure something else out, and so he kind of understood, and he was pretty cool with it. And by the way, at that time, I was also taking other courses. I was taking like a financial education course out in Toronto. I live in Buffalo, New York. So I was driving like 2 hours to Toronto to be taking these financial education courses slash like it was like financial education and also personal development type classes and courses. So I was driving out there 2 to 3 times a week. So it's not that I was like dropped out of school and was doing nothing. It was that I was dropped out of school and I decided I'm going to figure out my own path. Like I'm going to figure something else out. So I was just getting into the world of like self development and real estate and investing in all this. However, at that time, my mom was a college professor and she wasn't really into like all this, didn't really understand everything that I was like trying to do or up to.
right,
And so that was definitely a huge um, argument. But at the end of the day, I was like, Mom, look at this is the bill, the $12,000. Mom, are you paying that bill for me? She
right,
says, No, hijo, you have to. My mom's from Argentina. She's Latina, right? So, no, hijo, you have to pay the bill. That's your. Mom, I'm not like no, I'm not going into debt
right.
for this. I no, and so but and obviously now she's I mean, and she was still of course supportive. And
Yeah,
we love her. She's great. Um, but at first, yeah, she didn't fully understand
totally.
that. That was
Yeah,
definitely an argument.
totally get it. And I'm curious too, like when you were going to college, what was their expectation? And what was your expectation? Like, what did you initially want to do after college? Did you go into it knowing you wanted to start some business, or did you go into it having some other vision?
No, I think that was the other thing for me is that I didn't have a clear path on what I wanted to do or where I wanted to go. I was going to school. My degree was business administration, and I kind of went into that because I thought it was a very broad and general degree that I figured I could just like go get that degree and then go and figure out and kind of get a job sort of anywhere doing anything.
Yeah,
So no, before that, I actually just didn't have a clear path on what I wanted to do until I came across, until I read the book like Rich Dad Poor Dad, and then I started reading some of the, Think and Grow Rich and 4 Hour Work Week and all these other like self development books where I stumbled upon like this kind of just entrepreneurial like you know path. So I just didn't know. I didn't have clarity on what I wanted to do until I figured out. I learned like, oh, like there is such a thing as like financial freedom or I don't like to use the word passive income. I prefer the term leveraged income. Where I can leverage other people's time, I can leverage other people's money, and I can live and build like the lifestyle that I want. I can go and travel. I could and do these things and still be able to make an income. So yeah, I just didn't have. That was the whole thing with me for college. It's like, dude, I'm not going back. I'm not going into debt for something like I don't even know what I want to do exactly and all that. You know what I mean?
for sure. No, for sure. So you got that first one, proof of concept, and then like you're at 40 units now. Yeah. What do you think was like the biggest thing that helped you scale to that number?
Mhm. Yeah. So a couple things. First thing to know is that after getting that first unit, it took me 3 years to get from 1 unit to seven. It took me 3 years to get from 1 to 7. And then it's gone like in maybe 2.5 years from 7 to 40. Right. So it took me a long time to kind of figure things out, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Again, I started at 21, like literally knowing nothing, coming from nothing, learning. So during those first 3 years, it was just me like kind of learning the business, constantly doing research, like watching YouTube videos, doing courses, just kind of like learning for those first 3 years. Cause again, I was coming from nothing or just like from with no business experience or anything like that.
Totally.
Um, so the first 3 years, it was just like first 3 years of just learning, or I don't know what you want to call that, like just like kind of grinding, right?
Yep.
I was also working jobs. Yeah, I was like serving. I worked a couple different jobs, serving in a restaurant. I worked construction for a little bit, like just jumped around to doing a couple different jobs while doing the Airbnb thing on the side. Then around 2020, late 2021, early 2022, I met these um, real estate investors, these landlords who had like a couple hundred units around Buffalo, and they had a lot of units vacant. They had dozens of units vacant, and I ended up renting. They had an apartment building that had it was a 24 unit apartment building, and they had 7 units vacant, which is pretty bad for real estate. They had a third of the building almost was vacant.
Yeah.
And so basically we ended up striking up a deal where I rented all 7 of those apartments for them and was able to get them to 100% occupancy. And then since then we built up a pretty great partnership and, relationship. And they've given me, I now rent like 26 or 27 apartments from that one landlord across, all around Buffalo, across a bunch of different buildings. So for me, it was just like, took 3 years of just like learning and getting systems and putting things into place kind of. And then I met the right people at the right time. And then they've just fed me more and more apartments. And then since then I've taken on other apartments from other landlords as well. And that got me up to 40.
Totally. That's awesome. And I've seen that trend. It happened with my co-hosting business too. Like I had at my peak, I was at 30 units and about roughly 15 were from one person. And I've seen that a lot with a lot of different people who scale up to a certain number. It's a lot easier to have like just one or two strategic partners, but also too, I think that's like what everyone wants. Like in everyone's mind, it's like if I can just have one or two people and just scale. The problem with it though is that you probably wouldn't have gotten it if you didn't spend the first couple of years grinding it out, doing the hard stuff to then scale up. Now that you've put in that hard work, grinded a couple of years, you got it. Now like the floodgates open. But just a tip for everybody that number one, that's the fastest way I've seen people scale is they attach to one or two big players. But most importantly, it's not always going to be the first person. Actually, for me, it actually was the first person I worked with. He started with one and then he rapid fired. And then he also bought a boutique hotel or motel. So that definitely helped add the unit count really fast. But for the most people, it's not going to just happen. You're not going to go from 0 to 40 units in like a day. It just doesn't happen.
No, seriously, yeah. Especially with this like arbitrage, this type of business, it usually has like kind of like a hockey stick type growth, where, or at least in what I've seen, right? How it was for me, it's like it goes really, really slow, and then it goes really, really quick, right? It's like this exponential type curve. And so, yeah, it's like, dude, you just got to put, sometimes like you got to put in that upfront like grind and that upfront work. And then, the right, what's that saying they say about luck? It's like when opportunity meets preparation.
Yeah. Right. Totally. Were you doing, because obviously we met at the Midterm Rental Summit in person, and then I know you're doing a lot of midterm stuff now. Were you always starting with midterm rentals, or did you do short-term rentals before?
I started with short term, actually. Yeah. So I started with short term. And then I actually stumbled upon midterm rentals when COVID hit in like March or April of 2020. At that time, when COVID hit, I only had 4 arbitrage leases. And I was doing, short-term rentals. And actually 2 things happened around that time. So in like January of 2020, the city of Buffalo passed a short-term rental ordinance, and they greatly restricted short-term rentals. And they actually made all of my units, all of my apartment, all of my units were no longer qualified to do short-term rentals, mostly because they were in apartment buildings, and they made it so they passed the ordinance so that you can't do short-term rentals in buildings that are 5 units or more. So any like commercial buildings, you can't do short-term rentals. All of mine were in those like commercial buildings, right? And so one, and they gave us a couple months to like go into compliance. So during that time, I was like looking for a solution. Like, how am I gonna? I wasn't ready to shut down my business. I was like, dude, I know there's a way to get around this. Like, how am I going to get around this ordinance? I remember I actually printed out the ordinance. It wasn't that long. It was maybe 10 or 12 pages. And I read it over like half a dozen times, trying to find like loopholes, right? And are trying to figure out like, how am I going to get around this, right? And so I didn't really know how I was going to get around it yet. Then COVID happens. All my bookings had canceled. So I had empty calendars. I had 4 rents to pay, and I did not have savings to pay those 4 rents, right?
Right.
So I was freaking out a bit. And then I got lucky in a way that I got a booking over Airbnb, a 2-month booking from a travel nurse on Airbnb, and at one of my properties, right? And that got me interested. I was like, holy smokes, like a 2-month booking. Like I had never even heard of that at that point. For me, a 10-day booking was like probably the longest I ever had at that point. And so I was like, holy smokes, like 2 months, like that's crazy. Wow. I wonder if there's more of this. Like there's got to be, like, you know what I mean? Like there's got to be more of this, right? And so I started looking into it, and I ended up like changing my strategy. I moved all my Airbnb listings to a 30-night minimum. And then it also, when I got that 2-month booking over Airbnb, something clicked where I was like, hold on, the short-term rental ordinance that the city of Buffalo just passed, they define a short-term rental as 30 days or less.
Right.
So that booking that I just got is it's legal. You know, it doesn't violate the short-term rental ordinance. And so I was like, right. And so it just clicked. And then from there, I switched on my strategy, decided, okay, I'm going to focus on this midterm thing. Got all 4 of those properties booked by midterm tenants by the end of that month. So I think that was April of 2020. So by the end of April 2020, I had all my places booked with midterm tenants. I was able to pay my leases and still make a profit. And then once they were all booked, I was like, dude, what do I, twiddling my thumbs? I'm like, what do I do now? Like everything's booked, right? You know, as opposed to doing the short-term rentals, there was constant turnover and everything. And so that's how I stumbled upon midterm rentals, and I've just stuck with. I just decided like that's going to be my, that's what I'm going to focus on moving forward.
Got it. Yeah. And so, are all your units now midterm, or do you do hybrid or any short-term?
I have like one that I co-host that's primarily short-term. It's like a bigger, like a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house. And then I do some hybrid in between some of my midterm bookings for ones where it's allowed and I can, do it. But I'd say like 90% of my strategy is midterm rentals.
Okay, very cool. And what's like, actually, us this first. Obviously, the strategy shifted a little bit. How about like platforms? Where are you getting most of your bookings from? Yeah, if you can, it's probably a lot to cover. There.
Yeah. So it's actually still about almost 50% right now. I was just looking at it the other day. It's almost 50% right now over Airbnb.
Wow.
Airbnb with a 30-day minimum is still where I'm getting just lots of midterm tenants. There's just so much traffic on Airbnb. It's not always my favorite. I have a love-hate relationship, I'll say, with Airbnb. But man, you can't deny the amount of traffic that they have and people that they have that are also willing to pay, right? And then besides that, it would be Furnish Finder is number 2.
Okay.
I do get some leads, some bookings, some leads through Zillow, but not too many. And then besides that, it's just through building relationships, referrals, repeats, and realtors. All the R's: referrals, repeats, realtors, and also travel nurse recruiters.
Okay.
I have relationships with lots of recruiters, that send travel nurses, because a lot of my properties that I do are studio apartments, affordable studio apartments.
Okay.
A lot of them are walking distance to our downtown medical campus. Like they're walking distance to the hospitals. So they work really well for the travel nurses. Like I'm literally just renting apartments that are walking distance to the hospitals, furnishing them, and then subleasing them to the travel nurses.
Right.
And then I built up relationships with the travel nurse recruiters. So when a recruiter sends a travel nurse to Buffalo, they'll just give that nurse my contact info, and I'll help them find housing during their contract.
Got it. Okay. What percentage do you think? I'm asking a lot of percentage questions, but are traveling medical professionals?
Um, it varies seasonally for us here for me in Buffalo, because um, in the summertime, I would say it's maybe 50% travel nurses, and in the wintertime, maybe closer to 70%
Okay.
travel nurses, or traveling medical professionals, we'll say, just because and, we have really rough winters here in Buffalo, so there's less like in the summertime I'll get snowbirds and digital nomads, and I'll get like other types of like travelers like that. But in the wintertime, um, I don't get many digital nomads
Right. Right.
in the winter, or many snowbirds or other things like that.
So who's coming in the winter then?
A lot of the travel nurses, it's
Oh,
mostly people traveling for work.
got it.
What stuck with me is last year I had a guy who stayed with me for I think 6 weeks for just for the Buffalo Bills the playoff season. Like he was like a hardcore Bills. He's from Buffalo originally, lived somewhere
Wow.
else, and he booked 6 weeks in Buffalo just because he felt that we were going to make it to the Super Bowl this year. And so he booked all 6 weeks, and obviously we didn't make it to the Super Bowl. But he he booked 6 weeks just to be in Buffalo during the playoff season.
That's cool.
And all sorts of people traveling for all sorts of reasons, but most of it's people traveling for work.
Cool. Yeah, makes sense. So you're 40 units now. What's next for you, or what's like your goal?
It's a good question. I don't have like a unit number. It's not like I mean, 100 would be cool. 100 would be great. Really, my goal is to I want to really cement and establish myself and my company, Buffalo Corporate Housing, as the premier go-to corporate housing provider for the city of Buffalo and for the Western New York area in general. So that's really like what I'm trying to create, is the premier corporate housing company where if you need a place to stay in Buffalo, you call us. We're the go-to people. And that's really it. So that's really not so much a unit count or anything like that, but it's just to create the premier corporate housing provider.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I know this is something we talked about back in a month ago now at the summit. We talked about buying properties because again, you're doing arbitrage right now. And I was like, yo, why don't you buy any properties? Have you where is you? I guess where is your mind at with that? And if it's changed at all since we chatted.
So I go back and forth on this all the time, between buying and arbitrage. Obviously, they both have pros and cons. Like some of the pros, man, for arbitrage, it's like, dude, one, you can scale it quickly. It's cash flow heavy. It's like you need so little. I can get a arbitrage unit started for less than 5,000. And it's easy, and I've gotten good at it too, right? Like it's not that it's easy, but I've gotten good at it, right?
Yeah.
Like I know what I'm doing with it.
Yeah.
So it's like fast, and it's just cash flow, and I'm also like, when I'm doing arbitrage, I'm negotiating down rents. I'm usually doing, I'll do like a 3-year lease, and I'll negotiate first 2 months rent free. I'll negotiate down security deposit to like 50% security deposit. So all that's just to say, like, I can get an arbitrage unit up and running and start making money almost right away.
Yeah.
Um, with and Now, obviously, if you're buying, there's other advantages to that. Okay, yes, you're getting the tax advantages, you're building equity, mortgage pay down, 100%. There's a ton of advantages. You're kind of using more like leverage and stuff. So that's just to say there's pros and cons to each. I'm sure I'll probably end up buying property sometime and then in the future. I don't know if it's in my immediate future. But probably, I'm sure I'll start buying property at some point. I think I'd rather. I don't know. I guess I'm not so interested in buying like duplexes or single family. I think if and when I'm ready to start buying property, I'd probably like to end up looking more for like commercial property and partnering and working together with some people and buying some larger like apartment type complexes or something. I feel like that's maybe where I would be more interested in.
Makes sense. And this next question I'm asking, partially devil's advocate, partially I'm actually curious because I like different people I ask this question to get completely different answers. Like in the real estate world, and also just like my friends who don't do real estate. So like you mentioned, arbitrage is a cash flow heavy business, right? Same thing with like co-hosting. Like that's why I started it. All I cared about was cash flow. My question for you is like, what do you do with your cash flow?
I reinvested back into the business. That's how I've gotten it to 40 is like I make money and then I reinvest it into the next department. And then I've been investing into index funds.
Okay. So you're putting some in the stocks?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. But in the like boring stuff, like index fund, S&P 500, just like maxing out the Roth IRA and then putting, boring stuff.
Got it.
And invest, whatever. I do a little bit of, I buy like some Bitcoin and stuff, but like, that's it. Like, I don't do like little, like, not buying like meme coins or anything. No, I invested either reinvested back into the business or I invested, kind of mostly into like traditional stocks and stuff.
Yeah. Interesting. Cause like, it's just an interest. There's no right or wrong perspective. It's just interesting that like, you're so into the real estate stuff. Cause like for me, I'll say this first. Like I go in and out of the stock market. Like I tell everyone I don't like stocks, and then I'll go in for like a little bit, make some money, and then I'll get out. And then I'll go in a little bit, make some money, get out. Not like I'm not like a day trader. I'm going for a day. Like I'll buy Tesla when I think it's low, and then I'll like sell it when Elon announces something, and then I don't make that much money from it, but that's my participation in the stock market. But I was talking to a friend, and this is like different than what you're doing, but this is kind of related. So my friend, he loves stocks. He doesn't do any real estate. And I said, "What's the point of you buying stocks?" He's like, "Well, I just want the amount of money to go up and up and up." And I was like, "All right." And then so you're gonna take money and put in the stock, it's gonna go up and up and up. I'm like, "Then what?" Like, I'm gonna take that and take the dividends from it. I'm gonna put it back in. It's gonna go up and up and up. I'm like, okay. So then, like, what's the end goal here? He's like, well, in 40 years, when I retire, I can take that money and live off of it. And so that's like, I mean, the arbitrage thing is not exactly like that, but it is in the sense that, I mean, it's different because you're getting cash flow from it, right? And probably a lot more cash flow than you are from the stocks. But I'm always curious what people's like end game is, because I realize that like partially there is no end game. Like the game literally doesn't stop. But then I don't know. These are just things that go in my mind all the time with like, where do you put the money? When do you take it out for yourself? When should you reinvest? How long should you do it until you buy a bigger property? So I don't know. I don't know if you've thought about those things when it comes to buying too or anything like that.
Yeah. I mean, I think my end goal, what I would love to do, I think sometime down the line would be to buy a boutique hotel somewhere, like maybe in the United States, maybe not in the United States. And like probably like a nice boutique hotel where I have like my own like main house, right? And then I've got other like boutique, whatever little hotel units and live on the property probably and ideally on the beach somewhere and hang out and and that's my like semi-retirement plan. That's what I would love to do.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that's
Cool.
that's it. But, go ahead.
I was gonna ask you, shoot, just slipped my mind.
I'm curious. What's your end game with real estate? Because
Yeah.
you own most of your properties, right?
So I've been making a big shift into like I started buying with people, like other partners, and co-hosting kind of at the same time. Then I grew the co-hosting side up to the 30 units. Then I end up selling the properties I owned with my past partners. And one of those partners, I co-host like those 15 units for him. So my co-hosting stuff basically went in half overnight, but I was the one who said, I'm out of here. I'm done with this. So I knew it was coming. It wasn't like some like it could have
Right.
been random, but it wasn't for me. And then I started buying properties just myself. And I've been doing that for a year and a half now, just me, my money, and then um, the social media stuff as well, and still co-hosting as well. But the end game. So this is I was on the phone. I was on the phone with my friend today for about like an hour, just talking about this. Of like, and this is why I just like asking these questions is because I have no idea. Like people think that I have my life plan figured out. They're like, oh, you already invested in real estate, like you know what you're doing. I'm like, I still have no idea what I'm doing with my life. Like, I still have no idea. And people think I'm kidding when I say that. And I know that one thing I do know is that I want to buy more real estate. That's what gets me most excited.
Yep.
But as far as like an end game, I have literally no idea. And I think that's part of the problem is that I don't know. So it's kind of hard to like move forward in the right direction when I don't know what that even looks like. If that makes sense.
Sure. Dude, I think you're doing the right thing though. You're also 23 years old. I don't think you have to have it figured out. Like
Yeah.
the end game. You know what
No,
I
that's
mean? You know what? Like, and I'm 27. You know, the end game, like, because I guess what I've learned too is like, I don't know, like I had this idea of like what passive income was. I remember when I dropped out of when I like got started, I dropped out of school. I was like, yeah, like I'm just gonna like. And the time I had this idea, like I'm gonna buy a bunch of real estate and just make a bunch of cash flow and live on the beach. And then I realized over time, like, it doesn't exactly work quite that way. Like, it's a lot more work than what it takes. And I guess that's just to say, like, the end game is, I don't know, man. The end game is further out than I thought it was. Like,
yeah. That's totally
but
fair. Do you have employees with your with for your company?
I don't have any W-2.
Okay.
I have a virtual assistant. I have like a maintenance person, 1099 maintenance person. Um, and then I have a couple rock star cleaning ladies,
Nice.
and that's it. That's the team. It's
Okay.
me, VA, maintenance, and cleaning.
So how much time would you say you're spending per week on your business right now?
And actively managing the business itself, I would say, like in the business, it's maybe 20 to 30 hours a week, maybe if that. I'd say probably 20 hours, but then I'm also putting in additional work, like kind of working more on the business. And then I'm also obviously doing like uh, Facebook stuff. Like, I have my Facebook group and I'm doing some coaching and helping other midterm rental.
Yeah.
So I work a full, I try to make my work week like 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Obviously it's tough in this business to always to do it like that. Real estate's not exactly a 9 to 5 business.
Yeah.
But I try to work about 8 hours a day. Um, and then I'll put in a couple hours a week in the weekends too, maybe. So, whatever, 40 to 50 hours a week in total. I don't necessarily need to be working that much, but it's like, dude, I don't know what else to do with my time. Cause it's like
Yeah.
it's like sometimes like if I don't have much to do, it's like, dude, all my buddies are at work. Like I, I don't know. I don't know. What else am I going to do?
No, I completely hear you. I completely hear you. What are some tasks like when you say working on the business? Like, what are some examples of tasks that are working on the business instead of in the business?
So that's more things like it's more things like I call it on working on the business, but it'd be working with like relationships with my landlords. Like I'm on the phone with my landlords a lot. Like a lot of times we're just like talking and kind of like spitting ideas back and forth. Um, it's putting in like uh, systems in place and like building out like our like we have like a whole bunch of SOPs, and I've just been working a lot lately on just really getting those SOPs like dialed in, creating those systems so that like my VA knows how to handle any situation that comes up, and whatever, my cleaning and my maintenance. We've got like a great maintenance system dialed in right now where basically we created I created a maintenance form. So anytime if one of our tenants has any sort of like maintenance issue, or sometimes it's more like a property runner, not necessarily like, hey, the light bulb's out, or there's a leak underneath the sink, or there's all these little sorts of maintenance issues. My VA will just send them a templated message saying, hey, sorry to hear that, thanks for letting us know, please fill out this maintenance form, and our maintenance guy will reach out to you within 24 business hours, right? So they fill out the form, maintenance guy gets a notification, and he's trained to reach out to the tenant directly within 24 business hours to resolve whatever that the issue is. So that, like, for example, that's working something that I created that was kind of like working on the business.
Yeah.
I no longer have to worry about, like, that was a huge pain in my ass. It was like coordinating, between the tenant, and the tenant and the maintenance guy to like, coordinate a time to come in the property. The tenant wants to be home when they're there, or, whatever, all this stuff. So things like that.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. That's cool. Do you use AI in any parts of your business?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Talk to me on that.
I love ChatGPT, man. So what we've been doing with ChatGPT is we trained our ChatGPT bot. We named it like our Airbnb customer support. I fed it all, my VA. He fed it all of our templates, all of our like property information, all of our like everything about our business and everything. And then we also started feeding it a lot of our past conversations. And so we're basically training the AI bot on to become our customer support bot, right? So like we first gave it the prompt telling it, hey, like your MTR/STR superhost, you provide incredible customer service. But
Sure.
whatever. We gave it a prompt, giving it a job. We're telling it that your job is to provide customer support for our midterm tenants. And then we started feeding it templates and all this stuff. And then so now basically whenever like someone sends us a message, if my VA doesn't have an exact template on how to respond to that issue or doesn't know exactly, he just puts the question, feeds it into ChatGPT, and ChatGPT spits out a response that's in my style of writing. Because we trained the ChatGPT bot with all of those past messages and everything.
Yep. That's cool.
So basically, ChatGPT's become our like customer service rep or customer support, and like VA is just like copy and pasting the answers. Yeah. And so that's one of the main ways that we're using ChatGPT.
So real quick question on that. So like when you're VA, because I have something similar to that. I use Hospitable for a lot of my messages, but I also that's more with the Airbnb, and then I text through like a third party software. So I should probably dial that in more, kind of like what you're saying. But what software are you guys using to actually text or message your tenants? Because you're doing more midterm.
Yeah, we use OpenPhone.
And that just gives you and the VA and everyone access and stuff.
Correct. Yeah. So it's like it's called a VoIP. I think it's like an online. It's like a Google Voice, like an online phone number. Everyone on the team has, or not everyone, but the VA and I both have access to the open phone number. So people will text that number and either I can respond or the VA, and whoever, they don't really know. They mostly assume that they're messaging me. But it's usually, often it's the VA. Um, yeah, we're using open phone. I also love it because you can schedule messages ahead of time. So whenever once someone like confirms their reservation, my VA will schedule in all of their scheduled messages. So we'll have the check-in message scheduled out. We send a message the first day after they stayed, and we ask like, "Hey, how was your first night?" And then we have also like the checkout message that's scheduled before they leave, and all that stuff. So we use Open Phone to schedule out all those messages, which so it's not completely automated because Airbnb makes it so easy. Like you just have these automated messages sent out. With Open Phone, it's not fully automated, but you just schedule them ahead of time, right? And with Open Phone, you can also record phone calls. You get like transcribe phone calls and stuff, all that stuff. It's great. It's great.
That's cool. Are you also using a channel manager for the properties that you get through Airbnb or no?
So I'm not using a traditional channel manager. I'm not doing like Hospitable or any of those other ones. I use Monday.com to manage all of our reservations. Monday.com is really it's like a project management software. So it's very like customizable. All sorts of different businesses use it for all sorts of different things. So I actually created my own little system on Monday. So whenever we get a reservation, we just upload it into Monday. Like my VA uploads it into Monday. And that's how we keep track of all of our properties, all of our tenants, all of our SOPs are in there. Everything. So I'm a huge advocate for Monday.com, and I do also have a template for anyone who's interested in using Monday.com. They can download my template and get access basically to the template that I created to manage my NTR business.
That's awesome. Super cool. I used to use Monday.com. I really liked it. I use Notion now.
Okay. Yeah, similar.
Yeah, I think they're both great. Any of those softwares, I think they're just as good as if you use them, they're great. If you don't use them, and then just like anything else. So that's cool. One quick note as you said it, because my mind. Do you have Zapier? You use Zapier?
I do. I'm not good with it. I haven't used it much, but I do have it. But,
okay.
Yeah.
Because one thing that just popped in my head, because I have Zapier. It's like an automation. For those who don't know, it's like an automation tool. I use it for as many things as possible. One of the things that just popped in my head that you might be able to use it for, I don't even know if this would help you, but I'm just, as you said it, I thought it. So Airbnb, you can't do a Zap with Airbnb. Their API is
right. I've thought about this. I think I know where you're going, where they send you an email and then I can zap the email directly into my Monday. I have that things to do. I just really suck with Zapier. I still have to get good with it. So, but I have that in I've thought about that. Right now, I just have my name manually, and it's still manageable because it's midterm. So it's like each booking is for 2 months or whatever. So it's manageable, but it would be really cool for that to be automated.
Yeah, dude.
User error and stuff.
Yeah, that's a quick one too. I mean, also Zap. I don't know how much you played around the last time you played around with it, but they have this new AI. Zapier has this new AI function where you can literally type in there like, "Hey, whenever I get an email with this certain subject line or this certain description or whatever, send this to money.com," and it will basically build it out for you. It's like crazy.
Oh, dude, that's crazy. I didn't know that. No, it's been a while since I played with it.
Yeah.
Oh, you gotta check that. I'm writing that down.
Yeah. And another thing that I do that might relate in some way, or maybe you do incorporate this, or you could, or other people thinking, when I have things where, like in that example, what you could also have it do is at the end of that flow, you could have it send either a notification, a text message, whatever you want, or what I do like in my VAs, I have like a task list for them to do. So whenever I have something for them to do, it'll automatically add that to their task list. So because it also might take some manual components to plug in some certain details about the Airbnb reservation, but if you can make most of it automated, that'd be pretty sweet.
Right. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Just a
Wow.
thought.
Yeah, I gotta look back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know a lot of people talk about Zapier, and I've looked into it, but I never, I, I got confused and
That's funny. Well,
had
cool,
to
man.
push it a while.
What for people just like starting out on their real estate journey, like, or I guess let me ask you this, like, what's something that you wish you knew what was it 6 years ago, 2018, when you started your journey? What's that one thing you wish you knew?
I wish I talked to more people. I wish I tried more things faster. By the way, like what I didn't mention is like during those first 3 years, like, dude, I also got licensed to sell real estate. I did that for a short period of time. I got licensed to sell life, health, and disability insurance. Like I was just trying different things and trying to figure out like what is going to be my path, right? And it turned out like for me, it was this arbitrage thing. So honestly, if anything, I would have tried more stuff. I would have failed more faster. I would have like talked to more people, attended more events, and read more books, and just kept learning. But honestly, I wouldn't change anything. But if I were to change anything, it would just like do even more faster.
Yeah.
And I would have stopped smoking weed earlier too. Yeah, that,
Very.
that was that was that was an issue that I had in my
Yeah.
early 20s. I was smoking weed
That's funny. Yeah, I would say
earlier.
for me on that question, like, I feel like my biggest strength and weak this is like a strength and weakness, but I definitely identify it as a weakness. I consider myself more like as a visionary. So I'm always thinking of new ideas. I'm always just like thinking. And I also, put in the work and do the actions. But my main thing is just like thinking about ideas, kind of seeing things. That's like when you're talking about when you're talking about like your automations, I'm just like seeing it all like that. And I'll go in and I'll make the apps, but I don't love doing it. I rather just like think of the idea for it and then have someone else do it. That's like an integrator. But to follow that, I think my biggest regret, I mean, no regrets, honestly. Like I wouldn't change anything, but if I can go back, it would be once you like to myself, once you get good at something, like keep doing it and don't stop. What I think my problem was, I'm just gonna speak this out loud, is I feel like I got good at something, but not great. So I got good. I got like a 7 out of 10. And then I kind of pivoted a little bit. And there's so many different examples of that, but I would say that was probably my biggest like, dang, that was a rookie mistake. Now some things though, like for example, when I first started, I bought single family houses. I did fix and flips. I did short term rentals. I think those are really good for me, honestly, because I kind of learned different parts of the business and different strategies. But like like again, hindsight's 2020. If I look back and say, what if I never did social media and I just focused on my coaching business? Where would I be now? Like sometimes stuff like that gets with me, but obviously hindsight could be 2020. But obviously I learned so many things and met so many people from it that, and I don't really feel like I would have no idea where I'd be, but those are just some of the things I
Right.
had.
Yeah. No, I hear you, man. It's like once you kind of find the thing that you're good at, then go all in. That's kind of what I've, you know, tried to do.
Yeah.
But I do the same thing. I would identify the same as like a visionary, not so much as a integrator.
Yeah.
And yeah, I definitely suffer from like the shiny object syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I always want to try new things and all that stuff, but no, yeah.
Well, we're all guilty of it a little bit, right?
Yeah.
That's funny. Well, cool. Christian, where can everyone get a hold of you? I know you do some cool things, in your Facebook group. But yeah, tell listeners where they can get a hold of you.
Yeah. You can find me in my Facebook group. It's called Grow and / or Start Your Midterm Rental Business. So that's the best way to reach me is there on Facebook, or you can find me on Instagram. It's just my name. It's Christian Bauman 88. And I don't even have a YouTube yet, but YouTube I think will be coming soon, man. So, uh, so for now, yeah, check out my Facebook group, and that's really it.
Sweet. And I will be in the Facebook group in roughly like 4 weeks, I think, or 3 or 4 weeks.
Right. No, I think in like 3 weeks, you'll be there in the Facebook group. So make sure to catch that.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. Cool, man. Well,
Yeah,
Christian,
me too.
yeah, thanks for coming on, man. Cool just catching up, learning more about your journey, and
Yeah.
just kind of like peeling back, inspiring some people just to get started. And I appreciate you sharing like that this didn't happen overnight. You can get to 40 units in a day. Like the first 3 years were an absolute grind. It went slow, but then it's cool to see the
Yeah.
momentum pick up. And I've seen that for a lot of people, like that kind of, and myself too, like that type of momentum. A lot of people like to just talk about the past year because that's like the most fun to talk about. But I appreciate you sharing kind of the whole, in an hour podcast as much as you can in the whole story.
Yeah.
I think it helps a lot.
Yeah. No, thanks so much, man, for having me on. It's a pleasure. Thank you so much.